It's great to be here and be a part of this. I've known TC for a while now, and the opportunity to share my story is something I don't take for granted, and I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I think he might have oversold me, so I hope I can live up to that introduction that TC gave me. As we have this conversation, I know that every single one of you in this room is on a different path or in a different phase of your social media, communications, outreach, presence within your industry, and that's okay. I am farther along than some and way behind than others. So just know as we have these conversations that no matter where you are, it's going to benefit you to hear some of the things that I've been through my time in farm broadcasting, country music, and of course with Ohio Farm Bureau for the last 7 years as well. I am the general manager now of AgNet Communications. We have a radio broadcast company. We have 72 affiliate stations all across Ohio that carry our farm programming. We also have a publication called Ohio's Country Journal that goes out to over 20,000 farm families across the state, and I lead that team of about 15 people on that multimedia organization. A lot of that, though, is also on the digital side, so social media, YouTube, yes, even Twitter, as they call X now, and we have been known to do some things on TikTok as well. But the reason that I'm here is not simply because of what we do on social media, but it did get me in a little bit of trouble a while back. So how many, with a show of hands, are from Ohio in this room? Okay, so the rest of you need to know 3 things. Ohio State hates Michigan. Okay? Ohio State's band has something called Script Ohio, to where the band goes out and they write a cursive Ohio, and then the sousaphone player comes out at the top of the I and he dots the I with a Buckeye bow, and the crowd goes wild. The third thing you need to know is that Michigan's band gave Ohio State's band Script Ohio as a gift before the rivalry really took hold. So those 3 things are what you need to know as I tell this story. So I have a backdoor neighbor who is a Michigan fan. And he and his wife went on vacation to go see the mouse in Florida and asked me to take care of his yard. And I said I'd be more than happy. Ohio and his Michigan fans' neighbor's backyard, and I said, yeah, and they go, this is ESPN. Can we put your video on SportsCenter tonight? I can't even play cornhole. I was on SportsCenter twice. It was phenomenal. So I'm sitting there with my wife in the living room. It's about 11:15 that night, and we're watching ESPN, and all of a sudden this comes on.
Haven't seen it, should. How would you like to mow my lawn? College football season may be months away, but the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry never takes a break. Ohio State fan Ty Higgins watching neighbor's house. Neighbor's a Michigan fan, so our dude Ty cuts the Script Ohio into his neighbor's lawn. Ty doing like he's a member of the band. Even dots the I. Oh, that's strong. That's good effort. There you go.
Our band over by
They're very small watching that.
Huh? My wife says I write better with a mower than I do with a pen. But then I get a call a couple days later from Ann Arbor, Michigan, where Michigan University is, and I thought, oh, this ought to be good. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm a farm broadcaster. I've been up for 2 hours, and I answer the phone, and they say, is this the guy? I said, yeah. Well, it's this Howard Stern shock jock type of morning show from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they said, we're going to go live in 30 seconds. Do you want to come on with me? I've been on the radio since I was 17 years old. I've been up for 2 hours. Let's go. So they put me live on the radio, and they start jawing me, and they tell all these awful Ohio State jokes, and I tell them right back. And they tell me that Ohio Stadium, which is called the Horseshoe, looks like a toilet seat. And I said, well, that's funny because Michigan Stadium looks like the bowl, and sometimes some things in that bowl, some of the teams in that bowl look like something after a White Castle run. And then they knew they were in trouble. We went back and forth for another couple of minutes, and they got fed up with me finally, and they yelled into the phone, dude, don't you realize that Michigan's band gave Ohio State's band Script Ohio as a gift? And I said, yeah. I said, do you know why Michigan's band gave Ohio State's band Script Ohio as a gift? And they said, why? And I said, because Michigan's band couldn't spell Michigan. They called me the worst name I've ever been called in my life and hung up on me. I sat my phone down on my desk, sat back in the chair, and went, yes. OH. There we go. So, what was that? No. We got your number this year. We'll see how it goes next year. I really appreciate this opportunity. And, you know, as TC mentioned, there are so many correlations between your industry in the standard bred business and agriculture. They're one and the same. A lot of the issues that we're dealing with are also one and the same. And I'm not going to ask him to get on the mic, but I just want to use Dr. John Mossbarger as an example of that very thing. Because in Ohio, he noticed that we were going to have some issues with the equine industry. And in order to meet those issues head on, he became heavily involved in Ohio Farm Bureau, the largest farm organization in Ohio and in the country. And that gave the standardbred industry a seat at one of the biggest tables in agriculture. And it got the issue that was being taken care of in Ohio passed through the way it needed to be passed through thanks to Dr. Mossbarger's leadership. That is something we should all think about as we work together, because we're getting less and less in number every single day. Less than 1% of our population is involved in agriculture in one way, shape, or form. So we have to be working more together than we ever have in order to accomplish the goals and the future that we have in mind. So Dr. Mossbarger, thank you. It's great to see you this morning. And if you get a chance, our interview is actually on Facebook. So if you go to Ohio AgNet, Ohio's Country Journal on Facebook, you'll find our conversation from this morning.
Ty, we shared it on USTrotting.
Oh, and yes, on USTrotting website as well. So thank you. This next slide, I have to laugh because I did this presentation a couple weeks ago for the Ohio Beef Council, and I did not change the slide for the consumer. That is not a horse burger, just so you know that she is noshing on. But I thought it would be appropriate to keep it in here since the CEO of McDonald's took that huge bite of the Arch Burger a couple of days ago. So that certainly makes sense. But when we talk about communicating and outreach, no matter what organization you are, this is who you're communicating with. 4 real pillars here, including your members, of course, media types like myself, consumers who come to the track, and legislators who, of course, you also have to have some pretty serious conversations with here over the next couple of months, for sure. So as we have these conversations and communicate with these 4 sectors, the message is the same, but the way we deliver it is so much different depending on who you're talking with. And this is, of course, for this audience tonight, but this has been used in audiences for every sector of agriculture you could possibly imagine. So when I talk about this, and I may say the word agriculture every once in a while instead of standard bred, no, they're one and the same. We're all dealing with this outreach problem. Most people outside of harness racing only hear about what you do when something goes wrong. And when we don't say anything, if we're not proactive with our message, silence creates suspicion. Someone asked me, it was Wendy that asked me earlier, what do you hope that this crowd gets out of this tonight? And we all wish that the general public knows what we do, and we go about our daily job thinking that with common sense that our general public should have, they know what we do. They have no idea what we do. We can't go through our daily lives just thinking that they get it. We need to go throughout our daily lives thinking the worst, that they do not understand what we do and they think the total opposite of what we're actually doing. That's how we need to think about our communication. We need to be proactive with our messaging, proactive with our goals, and proactive with how we get the job done every single day on our farms. The public fills information gaps with assumptions. So if we don't give them the information, they're simply going to guess. We don't want that. I was in San Antonio last week for an event called Commodity Classic. A bunch of corn and soybean and sorghum growers were down there, and they had a big spray rig You know, those real big tires, real skinny wheels, right? That go through the rows and they take care of pest issues during the growing season. The bus driver I had that took me from the hotel to the convention center asked me if it was a monster truck convention. They don't have a clue what we do. They need to know, though, and that's why we need to be proactive with our messaging. If we don't tell our story, someone else will. So I've been with Farm Bureau before my general manager role here back October. I was with Farm Bureau for 7 years, and I led their communications team, their social media team as well. The model that we built from the ground up was we used to use our lobbyists and our leaders, our vice presidents of communication, of strategic partnerships, of policy. We used to use them in all of our outreach efforts and communications. And it became apparent that those messages were being received with a thud because they weren't relatable people. They were people that worked in the office every day on behalf of farmers, but they weren't farmers. And so it was my intention to go out to the farms and have the farmers tell the story themselves. No matter what the issue was, it was going to impact somebody directly. So let's hear from the farmer about how this particular issue, topic, legislation, what have you, impacts them and their farm every single day. So we put farmers first, put them in front of the cameras. We trained our members to tell their story. We encouraged content every single day, and not just corporate messaging. And we focused on transparency and normalcy. The more we talked about how we do things on the farm that may not seem normal or seem kosher, if you will, to the consumer, the more and more we talked about it and put it out there, the more it was going to be received if something, God forbid, did go wrong. A prime example of that is our pork industry in Ohio. At the Ohio State Fair every year, we have two really big mamas giving birth to piglets. And they're in these crates that they can barely move because it keeps the mom safe and it keeps the baby safe. The general public asks questions, but because we put it right in front of them and we have experts there to tell them why, those questions get answered really quick, and those myths and misconceptions and thoughts they have about it get squashed like a bug. So that is one really good example of what we're doing in agriculture in order to dispel those myths about animal agriculture production. And the grassroots digital advocates have also helped. That's that farmer level outreach where we create our own I guess you would call them superstars, right? Our own influencers in agriculture. And we have done that with a lot of farmers over the past 7 years at Ohio Farm Bureau. And so I encourage you to take this model and think about how this works in your industry, right? The farmer only makes the news when he or she isn't making it. My grandpa told me that a long time ago. Whenever there's a drought or there's too much rain and they don't get crops planted. When I worked in media relations for Ohio Farm Bureau, that's when my phone rang. When prices were good and yields were high, nobody called me because things were good and they just want the story about how farmers aren't doing well. Same goes for your industry as well. So your industry makes the news when there are welfare controversies, accidents on the track, positive drug results, legal or regulatory fights. You only make the news when you're not making it, unless you create your own news headlines. And we'll talk about more about that as far as outreach communication here in just a bit. So visibility presents crisis. And this is really this transparent, proactive approach that we all should be taking. And we need to take it at the local level. We'll talk about what USTA does here and how you can glean what they're doing at the national level and bring it down to a more granular level here in a bit. But just kind of always keep that in the back of your mind. There is creative plagiarism everywhere you look in agriculture, and it can happen here as well. The more the public sees normal operations, the less shocking rare issues become, right? Transparency builds that trust between professionals in your industry and consumers, and people protect what they understand. But they only get to understand it if you tell them what's actually happening. And it needs to come from your trainers, your drivers, and your experts at the track. So another issue that we have is this echo chamber on social media, right? Most of my friends on Facebook, when I put something out there, they're going to like it, they're going to agree with it, they're going to think that I am right along their path of thinking. We need to break out of that bubble in agriculture. And there are multiple ways to do that. But there are multiple reasons to do that as well. Jargon alienates newcomers. If they don't know exactly what you're saying, they're not going to be able to relate to you, and they won't be able to really engage with your content. You need to have entry-level content. You need to have layman's terms for what you do in order for people to understand and become more interested and get more involved in your industry. And no clear first step for a curious person will squash that curiosity really quickly. If someone sees a post from USTA for the first time, would they understand it? Go back to your posts and see if someone that has no idea what you do day in and day out understands what that post means or what that post is supposed to do, and start creating your messages to a little more broad audience to get them more interested and more involved and reach outside of that circle. Sometimes that means other platforms, which we'll talk about in a bit, although Facebook is kind of your wheelhouse, which you'll see in a little bit as well. And sometimes that takes boosting some posts, spending a little money, to reach out audiences that may be like-minded but outside of your circle. I know there's a great opportunity for growth in this industry with farmers who already have the landscape, the logistics of getting into the standardbred racing, but simply don't know how to get into the industry, and no clear first step is given to them. And so that's something to think about as you continue to grow internally with your message to an external audience. Simplifying social media. This morning when I came here and interviewed TC and Dr. Mossbarger and Mr. Williams, I had a tripod, I had my cell phone, and 2 wireless lav mics. Cell phones paid for by the company. The tripod was about 20 bucks. The lav mics were 50. $70 is all I have in my equipment to do what I did today for social media and for the radio network. Very, very easy to get someone at your local level the tools they need to do what I do every single day. And that includes things like short vertical videos, reels on Facebook, and of course on TikTok as well. You could do some FAQ series. What's a trotter? Some people simply don't know what that is. But if you do something that's more entertaining and engaging and get them more curious about the industry, that's one way to do it on social media. Myth busting. We have a water quality issue in Ohio, and everyone blames farmers for algal blooms in Lake Erie. So we did about a 4-minute myth-busting video about 4 years ago, and it really resonated with residents of Toledo, where we're having these algal blooms, but it also gave Ohio Farm Bureau members and farmers the talking points they needed when they had these tough conversations about one of the most challenging issues in the state. So it's important to be able to use those types of things in order to get your message across. You could do an Introduce a Horse Weekly, and we'll talk about the horse and athletes in your industry and how to utilize them for social media and outreach and communication as well here in just a bit. And it doesn't have to be perfect. As Dr. Mossbarger will tell you, I messed up a couple of times this morning, and I'm sure he probably thought he maybe just said an or an one too many times, which he didn't. But if you try to be perfect, it's not going to come across the way it will if you're just an authentic human being. So authenticity always wins over trying to just be someone that you're not. And this is where we're talking about turning your horsemen into storytellers. This is where I talked about turning farmers into our influencers, if you will. So you could do things like a weekly Meet a Horseman short video series. Right? Make them out front and center to talk about what they do with their horse every single day, what they do in their barn. Take those cameras in the barn. The one thing farmers have done very, very well over the last 10 or 15 years, when I was a kid, our barn doors were shut to everybody. Everyone minded their own business. No one was able to go into the barn. Farmers are starting to realize that they need to open those barn doors and be more transparent about what they do. And that might be something of interest to those wanting to learn more about standardbred racing as well. Have the horsemen talk about why they love the industry. Really show their passion. Talk about why they got involved, how long they've gotten involved. Let them tell their story. Let the groomers, the trainers, and the drivers speak plainly. No scripts. Authentic, of course, as I mentioned, is greater than being polished. So there's one avenue for you. And again, let's talk about the athletes. My wife, for whatever reason, on TikTok is enamored with these 2 cats that travel first class everywhere they go. They have their own litter box that travels with them. They have their own food that travels with them. The flight attendants know these cats by name, and they give them their Friskies whenever it's feeding time on this plane. Those cats have become a phenomenon with my wife, but I think that all animals, inherently for us, we gravitate to them, and we really do have an appreciation and a love for all types of animals. And so let's put these horses out front. Let's let them have a story to tell. Get some behind-the-scenes training footage of one of your best horses or one of your new horses. Give them a name, give them a face, if you will, to the general public. Talk about recovery routines, talk about their nutrition and their care. Really get people behind the scenes about what they might not think about when it comes to standardbred racing. Do a day in the life of a standardbred. People connect with animals emotionally first, and then of course as sport second. But if you give these animals a platform, there locally, you're going to get people to come to the track and want to find out more about them and watch them and cheer them on. So another thing we need to do in agriculture and in this industry is to make it easy to get involved. Maybe a landing page if you're new to harness racing, right? Beginner's guide, a PDF that they can download, simple explainer videos. You have to really use the KISS format with people that don't know anything about your industry. You have to think about how they would think about things. And explain to them in a way that you might explain something to a kindergartner, because that's how much knowledge they have about the industry. Your first night at the racetrack checklist to make sure they do things that get them hooked, get them engaged, and get them coming back for more. And if curiosity doesn't have a next step, it dies. So give them a reason to come back if they've come for the first time. And now we'll talk about metrics that actually matter. Your team up here, that you'll see their metrics in more detail here in a couple of minutes. They do a phenomenal job with a number of different things that when I was at Ohio Farm Bureau, our metrics were amazing as well. But we gave the keys to the car to the county farm bureaus for social media as well. Whether that be us creating a more generic, what I call an ag libs post, where they can fill in the blanks with their local information to really get it out to the people that want to see things from a county farm bureau and not necessarily the state farm bureau, the same way that people might want to see things from your state associations or county associations more than they do from the national. That is where this can really come in handy. So you're looking for metrics like video completion rate. How long did they watch that video that you put on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, whatever the case might be? How many times was it shared? Comments from non-industry accounts, that engagement piece that I talked about. Website clicks from new users. Email signups from people that maybe you want to learn more about what you do there at the local level. These are all metrics that can really get you to connect with people that want to get involved in your industry that never have before. So here are the metrics of USTA, and I know they're going to share these with you in a more specific way here in a couple of minutes, but I just want to show you just how successful they have been. These are the 2025 numbers. These are astounding. And these are experts up here that would be happy, I'm sure, to take your call, take your question, to find out exactly how they got these numbers and how you can do it at your local level as well. You'll notice that blue line there is Facebook. Facebook's kind of the bread and butter for your industry right now. That is the wheelhouse of who you want to reach, and we'll talk about the demographics of Facebook in a bit and why it's so important for your industry and your consumers in a bit. But just fantastic numbers when you look at the amount of impressions and engagement that you're seeing from your team here at USTA. Again, that blue is Facebook. By far and away, your most advantageous platform to reach people that are interested in standardbred racing. You'll notice here some of the videos as well. I need glasses, I guess. But you'll see that a lot of the videos is that 6 million views? Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible that you're able to get that much engagement. But as you look at these videos from USTA, think about how you can do something similar for your Facebook page, for your outreach efforts. Make it your own. Creative plagiarism, I'm telling you, it works every time. I use it all the time in agriculture. If I see a trend on social media, I always think, how can I ag that up? And I do. And it's beautiful because then I'm doing a trend that my audience knows about, but I've made it something they can relate to. And it works like a charm every single time. Here's why it's so important for you to do things at your level. As much as USTA is done, and as much as you saw those metrics, it is so hard to get those numbers. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of time and expertise and talent. 1 in every 19 fans sees organic content. So if you put something out on Facebook, 1 out of every 19 people that follow you is going to see that. Even though you think the whole world's going to see it, they're not. More than half of all content that gets posted to social media receives 0 shares. Almost none get shared more than 1,000 times. MyScript Ohio was certainly an exception to the rule on social media. People are more likely to read information that's shared by friends or connections they trust. That includes someone that is more local. Someone here in Franklin County, when they see something from Franklin County Farm Bureau, that is going to be a more trusted source, whether I like it or not, to what Ohio Farm Bureau puts out. Because they recognize the name of the county, they recognize they're local, and they recognize they can relate to them better because of that. So, when we talk about all the platforms, Twitter took 5.5 years to get to 100 million users. Facebook took 4.5 years to get there. Instagram, 2.5 years. TikTok, less than a year to get to 100 million users. And how do I know I've got a platform figured out? Well, when my kids were on Facebook and I did Script Ohio and got 3.5 million views, my kids went somewhere else. They went to Instagram. When I figured out Instagram and I got a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram, my kids said, we're going to TikTok. Well, I figured out TikTok too, and now they're on Lemonade, so now I'm trying to figure that out. But you need to be a part of all these platforms. TikTok in particular is really, really engaging. You could do so much with video and bringing people to the track without them actually being on the track, and tell them if they want to see this in real life, get your butt over here and join us for some night of racing. But as I mentioned, Facebook is your wheelhouse, the most popular social media platform. So you're in a good spot on Facebook. 1.82 billion people log in every single day. Think about that. 68% of American adults use Facebook. The average US user spends 34.5 minutes per day on Facebook. You know what 15 of those minutes are, but we'll leave that to another time. Identify the need for a Facebook page versus a Facebook profile. You can ask your experts up here which one they prefer. I would recommend a profile for certain tracks, but you can certainly ask them their expertise on that. Outsmart the algorithm, create engaging content, include visuals as much as you possibly can. This is the largest age group, 25 to 34, so you're in a fairly young demographic on Facebook, which is very, very good. 44% of users are female, 56% male. And of course, I put the recommended times to post on Facebook down there as well. 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Tuesdays or Thursdays is where we have the best success on Facebook. The communication culture shift. I'll wrap up with this, and I want to leave plenty of time for questions, but outreach is not a department. You do not have an outreach department at USTA. This is a mindset. This is something you really need to think about in everything that you do. How do we make this consumer friendly? How do we make this a message that's going to be received by someone who has no idea what we do, but we want to get them more and more involved? Every horseman is a spokesperson. Every barn is a classroom. Every race day is content. And local content has more impact than anything else you can do. So I encourage you to take this and not think every day as you do your job that they either, 1, understand what we do, or 2, really don't care what we do and just trust us, but go into the mindset that they think we're doing the worst possible job ever, and get the message out there about what we're really doing and get out in front of the bad news, because bad news travels a lot faster than good news. So with that, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And TC, thank you and the team for all you do and for this platform to share how we can really work together. There's a real opportunity, as Dr. Mossbarger saw several years ago, for our two worlds to work together. It's happened here in Ohio. Frank Frost is here with OHHA. His relationship with Farm Bureau just as strong. Ask him why. Ask him why he sponsors events. Ask him why he's at every annual meeting and every Young Ag Professionals event. He sees the value in that cross promotion. We need to see that at every state and get involved at the national level with American Farm Bureau. Let's get at the table and try to see if we can collaborate and work together to take our industries to the next level, because as small as a number we are, we're awful powerful as we work together. So thank you so much for your time.